Gotcha.
Recording. Greetings, everyone. This is Chris Shafulo coming to you for FFLGuard from Ground Zero in New York City, where we are down to only a couple hundred people dying per day, which is apparently a good thing. The governor told us yesterday that we are back to the same point as we were on March 20th when the shutdown began. So that's a good thing. Of course, the elderly and the nursing homes are the most compromised, which I'm assuming is the case everywhere. We lose a lot of people in the nursing homes. Young people are starting to be afflicted. So to that end, my brother will not be here today. He is off visiting a sick friend who is not going to make it past this week. So that wasn't COVID related. I think that's cancer related, but either way, he's off visiting his friend. And we will press on without him. We are in a spot now where many states have reopened, other than mine. But many other states have reopened. Some states have sued for their gun services to be available to the public. The one that springs to mind last week was Massachusetts. So the Massachusetts folks are back up and running. A lot of this stuff is by appointment. A lot of this stuff is being done the same way it has been done during the shutdown, which is by appointment, people in the parking lot, social distancing, not too many people in the store at one time. But we have not heard of any major problems. The issue of doing the paperwork on the property of the federally licensed premises has been addressed. And so long as you're not in a strip mall or directly abutting up against another business, you can certainly use your front porch and your front parking lot, your front driveway, or your back porch or your back driveway to accomplish paperwork. So that's a good thing. During the course of the week, I know that inspections started back up, particularly in Ohio. So they are certainly, ATF has certainly started to break out of their quarantine themselves and get back to work on inspections. I do know that NSSF has been instrumental in leading the charge against closures, and they have also conducted a meeting or two by webinar to discuss items related or notes of interest related to the shutdown, which whenever they do those things, I wholly endorse everyone jumping on and just hearing what they have to say. But other than that, it's been a 2 weeks moving back towards reopening. I don't know, we haven't gotten a lot of folks claiming that they have had any trouble other than getting product, which is a far cry from how it has been for the past couple of years, where there's been plenty of products sitting around. That does not seem to be the case anymore. And it looks like, if I had to guess, and maybe Hank, maybe we'll go to you first today as our business guru. Oh, let me introduce who's here from FFLGuard. I forgot to do that. So we have Avis from the client relations team representing the CRT. Of course, our director of compliance, Jim Zamillo, our OPSEC advisor, and our ATF liaison, Mike Bouchard, our business guru, Hank Yasek. And of course, Tricky Dick Vasquez out there in West Virginia, holding down the fort. That's who's here from FFLGuard. And like I said, Brian is absent today, but he will be back in 2 weeks. We will do this again in 2 weeks, just gather up and touch base, but we'll do it on Tuesday because 2 weeks from today is Memorial Day and I plan to be fishing. So we will do it on Tuesday. Hank, let's jump to you first. And of course, everyone, as you know or should know from the other calls that we've had leading up to today, down the bottom, you can certainly hit chat and ask a question to me privately, or give me your recommendations for shows to watch on Netflix. I just watched Extraction with Liam Hemsworth, the guy who played Thor, and that was pretty good. I gotta say, it was very. If you like action movies like I do, it was a good one. They had one scene that was a half an hour long, a half an hour straight cut fight scene, which was pretty cool. But you can certainly use the chat function to me privately or to everybody. Hank just said hi to everybody. Hank, what's going on in the world of business as our business guru? Tell us.
Well, Chris, as you kind of led into it, it is an absolute patchwork quilt of different statuses across the country right now of where they're allowed to do business, who can, who can't, even within states like in New York, you know, it's just patchwork of who can be open, who can't be open, where they can be open, and all these kind of things. But again, as you said, the common denominator right now with everyone is product, product, product. And even with that, you know, is the whole, even if they get it in and you land a, you know, you land a case of 9mm, it's in many cases, it's 2 weeks before the distributor can get it out of their warehouse right now too, which is the other kind of issue, is the backlog. You know, everyone that I talk to, you know, it's everyone's nightmare is product, product, product right now. My cautionary tale, just through the number of cycles that I've been in this environment in the past, is this: as we're coming out, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, be smart about the quantities you're buying on product. You know, don't overbuy too much if you have the opportunity to do that. But the other one, and the more important one, is don't be buying fringe product that you think, well, in the interim, I need this and I think I can sell it. Because when product starts flowing again, you're going to get stuck with that inventory when your customers start going back to their regular buying habits of buying the brand or the specific product that they're looking for because it becomes available. And suddenly you're right back where you were, you know, 6 months ago with product that's just taking up space in your showroom. This is just, as I've said in prior calls, this is in times of difficulty, there's always a silver lining. And this is that great reset that every store can have right now to say, how am I going to move forward in re-inventorying my store with the right inventory and the right quantities, and just be disciplined about that and not get yourself back into a situation with a bunch of stagnant inventory that you either bought too much of or it's not the right inventory for your customer base in your local shop. Anything more specific, Chris, that you want to run at on that?
No, I think that's what, you know, the general populace wants to hear, what's going on, what to do, how to do it. I do think that we will see continued strong sales through the election, because now it's starting to get to the point of acrimony amongst the politicians, which you can expect in the lead up, and then before you know it, it'll be hunting season, and then it'll be the election. So I think for the rest of this year, the more you can get your hands on, the better you'll be. But like you say, don't overdo it.
Yeah, the other one that the other thing, and let me add this in, the other thing that I am hearing from some folks, and again, this is patchwork here around the country, but for those of you that are still in a shutdown state, that you really haven't started trying to crawl back your employees into the business, if you're on the PPP program, I'm hearing some retailers having problems getting their staff to come back because they're making more money staying home than they would be if they were coming into your store because of unemployment payments. So be aware of that fact of you may have some employee atrophy through this process as well too, because of this whole craziness that we're going through. So something to be aware of for those of you that haven't run into that yet, that it's uncommon. I'm not saying that everyone's running into it, but I have heard a couple cases of it on that have called me saying, what do I do, Hank, in this situation?
Yeah, I would think anybody who has a job right now should be thankful they have a job.
Mm-hmm.
With, you know, unemployment where it is, 30-something million people, 15%, whatever the number is, it's kind of staggering.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and again, not that I've had my ear to the ground, I don't know of any locations that are just open in unfettered fashion, meaning come and go as you please, and you're in the store with a bunch of other people like it used to be. Right. Have you heard anything to that extent, or are we still?
No, nothing to that extent. But some of them where they were on complete shutdown, where they couldn't be, you know, operating because of the state legislation or whatever. You know, opening back up, either doing the overturning of laws, or the states are opening back up, or whatever it may be. That their employees have gotten kind of comfortable with their unemployment checks coming in, and it's in some cases to qualify on the PPP stuff, they're having a hard time. There's this rub of having to bring them back, but the employee not wanting to come back.
Right.
And so there's this rub that's occurring, and it's more common in other industries. I've been keeping a close watch on it, but I have heard of a few instances in our industry of this occurring with some bigger retailers. So.
Okay, so from that to the world of compliance, you know, Jim, I'll flip it over to you, and I don't know that you're going to have an answer to this, but what did we see in the help desk over the last 2 weeks that jumps out at you as a commonly asked question or a novel question? To be honest with you, we can always tell when people are busy because the help desk calms down. There are less questions because people are busy selling stuff.
It's been calm, but I did have a couple points I wanted to bring up, compliance oriented. One is, you know, with what you said, Chris, about you can't find product right now. You can't, for example, you want to buy a Glock, you're not going to be able to find a Glock. You want a Glock 19, forget about it. Smith has been booming out the doors, as they all have. So I went back and I looked at sales for January through April, each month by itself for 2020. And then I went back and compared it to all the, using NICS. I went back and I compared it to like January 2020 to all the prior Januaries. And these 4 months have set records. I mean, each year you're going to see some up and downs in terms of gun sales, you know, NICS background checks. But these 4 months have blown away every other January, February, March, and April in terms of volume of NICS checks. So with that, I mean, it's great, you know, what you have and you're selling it and the business is booming. But with that, we've all seen that the most common complaint among dealers is, well, the reason why we had these violations is we got busy and we missed it. And that, I think, is something that we're going to have to be very, very careful about. That even if you have a great software that will stop a transfer to someone who answers item 11B with a yes on the 4473, you're still going to have mistakes where your employee didn't sign the form for the transfer, or a NICS check was not done after the 30 days. We've actually seen a few of those come in lately that, again, through the rush of getting the sales made, the compliance may decrease to a degree. So to the extent that everybody has the time to go back and look at the 4473s and look for the obvious things like an employee not signing the form that the transfer occurred, you know, things along those lines to just double check, especially since ATF is coming out. Because if they're not out in your area now, they're going to be coming out. And the only other thing I wanted to comment on, we all know the new 4473 is coming out. It's going to probably hit June, July when ATF says this is the form. So I would talk with your software providers in terms of what are they doing to begin moving towards the draft that ATF has had out there for a while, because I really don't see anything from ATF indicating that draft is going to change a heck of a lot. They may clarify a few things, you know, in terms of what you can enter in different lines, like the one where it says, you know, identify the lines if this is a pawn redemption. If there's not room there, can you put, say, see item 31, you know, referring it to where the licensee can enter their information. And we've gotten back that, yes, you can, but those are the kind of instructions that aren't out there with the draft that I would expect to see the final would have instructions that way. In other words, you're not limited to entering a numeric value in there for the specific lines of what guns were pawn redemptions and that. So those were the two main things I wanted to hit on.
So that's a perfect segue into Mike Bouchard. And for those of you who don't know, back in the day, AKA when folks like Mike and Jim and Rick were at ATF, Mike was an AD at one point and Jim was a deputy AD. They worked together, and there has been, without naming names because I don't think that's necessary, there has been some turnover at the top over there. And to that end, it may affect how easy or not easy inspections are viewed, how critical inspections are viewed with this sort of new regime in place over there. Mike, can you speak to how the process works? If you know, I mean, I know I'm always putting you guys on the spot with my free thinking dialogue here, but you know, tell me a little bit about when you and Jim worked there, you know, how things would come in from the field as far as we got a report about this FFL and what they've done wrong, and where decisions are made and how the new personnel there may make decisions different than previous personnel.
Yeah, back before the days when Jim and I worked together, many of you still may remember ATF did things very differently. Every field division pretty much operated under its own guidelines, and there was not a lot of consistency. So Jim put together an inspection plan across the country, and one of our, I think our biggest accomplishments was we managed to get consistency across all the field divisions, gave them all the same guidance. And it took a little time where we had to kind of bring some of the decision making back into headquarters, which is not normally how ATF does things, but until we can get things all on track and consistent, we brought some of this major decision making into Jim's office and my office. And then once we gave everybody their general guidance after that, and they understood that this is how things were going to be done, we pushed it back out to the field. When we find that things are not being done as they should, or differing from one field division to the other, that's when the deputy assistant director gets involved and gets with the field divisions to straighten those things out. So every time you get new senior executives in, they all have their own way of doing things. Some view things more strictly than others do. Some have had better experiences with things than others. So for the first couple months, it's a kind of a feeling out period. Fortunately, I know the new people who are in power there, they've all got their own way of doing things. So what I'll do is just get together with them, as Jim will, and we'll talk to them and just make sure, trying to get their ideas of how they're going to be handling things, get their assurance that things are going to be done consistently. And if not, then we take it up a level at ATF and discuss it with them.
So if you're not meeting success, or if usually it's us as the representatives of the FFL don't meet success at the DIO level, and we don't meet success at the next level up, which is the DAD or the deputy assistant director, our recourse is still threefold. It's the assistant director, it is the deputy director, Marvin, who we've known for some time, or it is the director herself, Regina. But there are still avenues of relief to be had. I guess my point of warning is that the new DAD has had her issues in the past. She's been looked at by the inspector general. She has been publicly overturned on a number of decisions she's made when she was a DIO. Yet magically, through the power of government, she has risen to a position of power, a position of oversight. Go figure. So we all have to be vigilant for the next year at a minimum on inspection. And I always hate to be the Grim Reaper and the harbinger of doom. You need me. You need us, because the bad guys at ATF are coming. I try to avoid that, but I will tell you, with this news, I think people need FFLGuard more than ever, because I have no faith at that DAD position that things will get done properly.
Chris,
you want to chime in?
If I can jump in just for a second. Yeah. The danger point, and this is why I'm really glad we have Mike on our team. The danger point is when a division goes to the administrative action order, which as Mike indicated, that guides them on when it should be a warning letter, warning conference, notice of revocation. If they have a situation where the order says well, this indicates it should be revocation. And the DIO decides that, well, I don't think we have to revoke here. I think we can do a warning conference, providing, the stars align and they're going to do it right going forward. And we've been very, very successful in that regard, working with the DIOs to have them settle it as a warning conference. The rub that can come in now is when a DIO wants to do that, as Mike spoke about, for consistency, that has to come into the DAT of Field Ops IO to look at it and approve it. So this is where you could have someone that has a different mindset, as Mike talked about, that she may not want to have this resolved with a warning conference. She may want to have it revoked, which we have seen in the past with her. And in that case, she says, no, you're not doing a warning conference. We're going to have revocation here. And that's where, through Mike, we can actually say, no, we don't think that's right. Mike, he could meet with her, but he's got a much better hammer, so to speak. And that is his friendship with her boss, the assistant director of Field Ops. So Mike can go there, or Mike could even go to Marvin if the AD didn't want to work on that. So, like I say, thank God we have Mike on our team to be able to help out there.
We also have Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add, the senior level people, we've had multiple discussions with them. Their goal is to keep FFLs in business. They just want people to be compliant. They're not looking to put people out of business. They've assured me that, and assured us that, if people are going to make repeated mistakes or just ignore what the government's asking them to do, then, they don't have much recourse, but they are going to be forgiving. They are going to give people as many chances as they can and help them as much as possible. So, a deputy assistant director doesn't have the final say. They still have guidance from several levels above them about, they also have to answer the Department of Justice about, how they view things too. So the deputy assistant director doesn't have that final decision if they're not going to be consistent with what the administration wants to do.
Yeah, and I will say this to everybody, and again, sort of along the lines of, I don't like being the harbinger of doom. I also don't like tooting my own horn, but there was a period of time where we at FFLGuard, Mike, Jim, all of us were successful in getting ATF to implement a pre-revocation review, which was never a thing until we got them to do it. So it used to be where if you got a revocation letter, you were getting revoked. That's it, end of story. We'll talk to you at the revocation hearing. And because of our efforts, they realized that sort of a pre-revocation settlement conference or settlement proposals were something they would entertain and short circuits the need to spend a ton of money on a revocation if they believe you can get on track. So we have a lot of sort of outlets at our disposal to overcome people with poor administrative records. But the bottom line is, my warning to everyone, you have to be super vigilant coming out of this high period, like Jim says, of ultra busyness, because things are going to be treated with a very critical eye over there. And I'm sure, this is not something that we will put out in print, but we will talk about from time to time on our calls. Last but not least, Tricky Rick Vasquez out there in Winchester, Virginia, West Virginia. I saw a startling statistic, Rick, which made me think of you, and that is that West Virginia, 80% of the senior citizen population in nursing homes, 80% who get COVID die in West Virginia.
Jesus.
And the reason that I know that stat is because all everyone sees is the fact that all these people are dying in New York. But when you look at it statistically, New York is actually only 12%, but there's just so many people that it seems like a lot of people. But in reality, it's only 12% of the senior citizens in a nursing home are dying. West Virginia has the worst record, but it's 80%. So all I was thinking was stay healthy and if you need me to come out there and take care of you and feed you, you know, baby food or whatever, and clean your bed sores, we can make arrangements through FFLGuard for that.
Well, I want to let you know we have a COVID-free range.
Oh, okay.
Come down and shoot. We can put something together.
Okay.
A couple of things. I sent Chris an article. He's got to dress up. I don't know if it's gone out yet, but be an article coming about putting your FFL online. It is being used to fraud. People are downloading your FFLs, your SOTs. I was alerted by one field office. They have over 15 cases of fraud. When I was with ATF, Jim and Mike might remember this. Mike Kelly Guns falsified an ATF approval letter, took it down, copied it, and sold numerous M14s, real M14s. They welded back together to people, and they lost their money. And then in the Clark case, the huge machine gun counterfeit case, probably 2010, he did the same thing with falsifying Form 4s and frauded over $1 million of people with pre-86 machine guns. So they are taking FFLs that are online with instructions on dealers are putting on how to use it. Take my FFL and fill this out, have the gun mailed to you, and they're changing addresses and having guns, and there's some pre-86 machine guns that have now disappeared. So you need to be very cautious. Everybody wants to make money, but be very cautious of what you're doing with your FFL and your SOT.
Good information. And yes, we did get that article, and we are dressing it up, and it's going to go out in this Friday's e-blast. So thank you for that. Any NFA news we need to hear about? Anything, times changing, you know, anything you want to throw in there?
The big NFA dealers I know, they're actually doing extremely well right now. The NFA product is really moving. Pre-86 machine guns are going up more and more again. Everybody's looking forward to Knob Creek this fall because there wasn't an NRA convention. There wasn't an NRA in the spring. There wasn't a SOFIC conference. So I've got so many calls asking if I'm going to go to Knob Creek this fall. I hate going to Knob Creek, but I think I'm going to go because it sounds like there's going to be a blue million people there and be a lot of inventory for sale and a lot of contacts to be made.
Yeah, I know that's not your favorite destination, but any port in a storm, as they say.
That's right.
I guess I will leave last. Avis, I don't know if you have any client relations input you'd like to add. You're always good for some new tips and tidbits you hear on the street about best practices, anything you want to throw in there other than I just like hearing your Southern South Carolina drawl. It's just very soothing.
Gotcha. Now, the only thing, as stores do open up, one thing, you want to make sure that you don't have people congregating on one row. You need to look at that. And although we're allowing only a certain amount of people in the store, they don't all need to be in the ammo section, or you need to say, hey, I will only want about 9 people on this row. Measure it out. Keep them 6 feet apart. I've seen some different stores have noted this, that only so many people are on a aisle. So maybe we'll come up with some kind of signage that we suggest to put it up, because that is very important. We want to keep people in the stores, but we don't want them passing any kind of germs to each other.
See, I just like to hear your voice.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, listen, when you live with, what's the girl's name from My Cousin Vinny? Like, that's what Lauren sounds like, as the gentleman can attest. So the southern drawl is nice.
You're gonna pay for that.
Yeah,
I know, and it's being recorded. It's being recorded. So to that end, if there are no questions, I will tell you that I hope to one day conduct this meeting as a remote from Jim Gilley's office, because I just love it so much. But until then, we will keep going every other week or thereabouts, and we will reconvene next 2 weeks from tomorrow, because 2 weeks from today is Memorial Day. and discuss current events and keep everybody posted. As always, this will be posted online and will be, this video will be posted online, and we'll put out there how you can connect to it if you want to show your staff and what have you. Otherwise, stay safe, stay COVID-free, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Happy Memorial Day, and call me if you need me. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye. Take care.
So Avis, you could stop the recording.
Gotcha.
And then let's see who remains. Did Jim already jump off? No, you're still recording, by the way.
Oh.
You need to